Who killed Charlie Kirk? That's the big question. The FBI wants you to think it's 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Maybe it was him, but I think a lot of us are starting to ask many questions and being like, hey, it looks like there's some other people involved. And a lot of people are starting to sour on the information that they already shared. A lot of things coming out just really sound fishy. So let's go over the official narrative that's being released, and then we can go into some of the questions that people are asking. Headline from ABC News: Charlie Kirk killing suspect had, quote, obsession with the conservative influencer, FBI says. Here's a picture of Tyler Robinson. This is the 22-year-old Utah native. So he's accused of shooting Kirk at the event at Utah Valley University on September 10th. Dan Bongino said the suspect, by the way, Dan Bongino is the co-deputy director of the FBI. Bongino said the suspect appeared to have exhibited multiple warning signs. Bongino said on Fox News, I believe coworkers stated he had detached himself when the topic of politics came up and walked away. Bongino said they're looking into whether anyone knew the shooting could happen and didn't alert authorities, referring to online chats Robinson allegedly had about Kirk. So remember, a big part of the narrative here is that Tyler Robinson was a part of a lot of these Discord chats, Discord communities, and they were, obviously very anti-MAGA, anti-conservative, very pro-trans, all that. Bongino said, did they hear it and think it was a joke? So he's referring to, did these people in the Discord community hear that Tyler Robinson was going to do this? Do they think it was a joke? If there's a larger network here, we will get that out to the public as soon as we can. FBI Director Kash Patel also announced that DNA was found at the crime scene, specifically the towel wrapped around the firearm used in the shooting and on a screwdriver. And this is the DNA that links Robinson to the killing of the conservative influencer. Patel said that Robinson essentially admitted to assassinating Kirk. This is an interesting thing because according to the FBI, Robinson did admit to it in this text message exchange, which we're going to look at because it's a very weird so-called text message exchange. But apparently Robinson has not admitted it to the FBI. So this is the text message exchange here. Patel said the FBI found a text message exchange where he, the suspect, specifically stated he had the opportunity to take out Kirk and he would do that. When asked why, he said some hatred cannot be negotiated with. And then don't forget the part of the narrative that Tyler Robinson's father turned him in. So they were apparently looking at the footage captured of Charlie Kirk's murder, and the mom was like, hey, honey, I think our son maybe killed Charlie Kirk. And then the pastor apparently convinced them to turn him in, and I think he got or is getting a reward of $1.2 million, something like that. But, I don't know about you, and I know I'm not the only one. You can tell me in the comment section, but as soon as this was announced, I immediately felt a little bit weird about it. I wasn't convinced. Not because the feds can't be trusted, which they can't, but because there were just some things that didn't really make much sense. Just the idea that this 22-year-old kid could orchestrate all of this perfectly from a rooftop without getting any help, getting in and out without being noticed, and then the whole thing with the outfit change, right? There's one of the biggest questions is he was wearing one outfit, and then he changed on campus, and then changed again, was wearing a different outfit. But things started to get even weirder when they announced that Tyler Robinson was in custody and then he had some sort of trans partner and this person was cooperating with the FBI. Just like, hands up, cooperating. I'm going to help you catch my boyfriend. That's weird. So let's look at the text messages because you guys, these are weird as hell. I do not think that these are real messages, but you see for yourself. Here we go. So Tyler Robinson says, I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Okay. Even the first sentence we can go over. What 22-year-old types like this for a little while longer yet? It's just too proper. It's just weird. Shouldn't be long until I can come home. I got to grab my rifle still. Roommate said, you weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry. The roommate said, I thought they caught the person. Robinson said, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, which, by the way, I forgot. I think something's in this guy. He intentionally made a scene to try to divert them from the killer, apparently. That's a whole other thing that people are asking about. So he said, I planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. The roommate said, why? Robinson said, why did I do it? Roommate said, yeah. Robinson said, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Also, this is too proper for a 22-year-old. What 22-year-old do you know texts like that? If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. I mean, it's very proper, correct grammar, but I don't know any 22-year-old who texts like that. The biggest thing that stood out to me, honestly, was Maybe it's in the next one. No, it's right here. He says, I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I'm worried about what my old man would do. You're worried about what your old man would do? Honestly, if we polled 100 22-year-olds today, if we polled 100 people between the age of 20 and 25, how many of them would even know what the phrase my old man meant? That's almost like slang that belongs to the boomers. What 22-year-old says my old man when they're talking about their father? Like my dad? Like nobody says my old man. Even millennials wouldn't say that. I don't even know if Gen X might. Boomers definitely. But this is so fetty. It's so fetty. I'm sorry. And I know I'm not the only one asking these questions. A lot of people are asking these questions. But one piece of an eyewitness account that I think is really important is that apparently one of the neighbors said that about a week before the assassination, remember Tyler Robinson and the trans partner or whatever were living together. The guy's name was Lance Twiggs, and apparently Lance Twiggs' family owned the home where they were living. So anyway, a neighbor said that about a week before the assassination, there were all of these weird cars parked outside of their house, and they were out of state license plates. That's a big piece to consider. Okay, even I think it was a couple of nights ago, I forgot which night, Nick said this on his stream too. Nick was like, hello, this is a really big piece that needs to be investigated more. Every one of those cars that was there needs to be questioned. It seems to be sort of buried in the mix. And here's a tweet from Liberty Lockpod. Official narrative so far. Drives to campus in one outfit, changes clothes, shoots, leaves with no gun on foot, ditches gun, changes into prior outfit, goes back to car, drives 250 miles home, confessed to dad. Terms himself in, and now he denies guilt. Oh, okay, makes perfect sense. Yeah, and look at this. FBI reports Charlie Kirk shooter smuggled rifle and backpack, assembled on rooftop, disassembled after shot, left in towel in the woods. Like, does this look like Tyler Robinson, who was just arrested? You know, I mean, and then this guy goes through what it takes to actually like disassemble the rifle. But it's like, does that look like him? Are these the same people? So obviously one of the biggest questions is, are these the same people? And of course, someone who's asking these questions very loudly is Candace Owens. And she's gone through all of these things in much more detail, so I'm just doing a very quick summary of a couple of these things. She's been breaking down a lot of these details very carefully. So go watch her streams over the last couple of days, because she is putting together a timeline and asking a lot of questions, because a lot of the stuff from the FBI just doesn't make any sense. And I think she and millions of other people are asking, like, are these two different people? And I think a lot of us are wondering whether there were more people. I should rephrase that. A lot of us are pretty sure that there are more people involved in this murder. I mean, when has the FBI ever been forthright, completely honest about things like this? When have they ever? Like, at this point, it's almost our duty as Americans to question what the feds are saying. And there's just a lot here that seems really fishy. And one thing that people are pointing out is that a lot of Tyler Robinson's family and friends said that he was an incredibly neat, tidy person. And a lot of the stuff, that evidence that he left behind, it just doesn't make any sense that this sort of neat, tidy person would just leave behind. And then in that text message exchange, which I didn't read directly, but you can go back and see it, the guy is like, Tyler Robinson allegedly says, all I did was left behind the rifle and it's got my fingerprints on it. Uh-oh. That's the only thing I left behind. That's the only thing you left behind, Tyler Robinson? The only thing? Oh yeah, I just left the murder weapon with my prints on it. LOL. Oopsies. Guys, let's be real here. And in the midst of everyone asking these questions, there's also been a lot of stuff being said about the last months of Charlie's life. And this is where a lot of people are arguing now. There's a lot of fighting about people speaking for Charlie and others who really knew what he was going through at the end. And Candace is revealing a lot of the little lies, as she calls them. And she's talking a lot about how Charlie was feeling extremely pressured towards the end of his life to maintain a specific narrative about his support for Israel, to maintain a certain narrative that was being pushed by TPUSA. She's just revealing a lot of things that were sort of covered up, or maybe even lied about. And this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, and of course, people will tell you, like, if you get on Twitter, they're all fighting and they're like, Candace has to make this about herself and she has to blame Israel for Charlie's death. Nope. That's not what she's doing. Again, go back and watch her streams. There's not been a single time where Candace says that Israel did it. What she's doing is she's revealing a lot of things that happened in the last weeks of Charlie's life to show that he was being pressured. And he allegedly turned down $150 million from Netanyahu to continue his very loud, bold support of Israel. That is a lot of money, you guys. That would more than double TPUSA's budget. Okay, remember, TPUSA is a 501c3 organization. That's a nonprofit organization. And to put it really quick in a summary, nonprofits don't pay any taxes, but they have to show that they're doing some kind of community work. Also, 501c3s cannot be political in the sense that they cannot support specific political campaigns and they cannot openly support specific political candidates. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't talk about political topics, obviously, and that doesn't mean that you can't host a politician for an interview or at a conference, whatever. But a 501c3 runs on donations. There's no such thing as like revenue for a 501c3. It's that they run on donations, and all those donations, one of the many reasons why people donate large sums to 501c3s is because they're tax deductible donations. Charlie allegedly turned down $150 million, and that money was supposedly an offer to get Charlie to keep supporting Israel publicly. This is a really big deal. So if you look at Charlie's videos, especially from early on in TPUSA's, in the coming ups of TPUSA, Charlie would talk a lot about Israel-Palestine, that conflict, and he would almost always be pro-Israel, and he would like to debate a lot of college students on what was happening in Gaza, And so, like, we know that he was getting a lot of donations from Israel, blah, 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 but Candace is revealing a lot about how in the last months of Charlie's life, he was starting to really have a change of heart. And this is not only coming from Candace. We've heard it confirmed by Tucker Carlson. We even saw Charlie Kirk get on the Megyn Kelly show August 5th or 6th. And they were kind of like lamenting to one another how frustrating it is that as soon as you start to question anything that Israel does, you're suddenly called an anti-Semite. And Charlie was rightfully so getting frustrated on air with Megyn Kelly. And he was like, it's so annoying to me. He was like, I've spent my entire career defending Israel, saying publicly that I want Israel to win. But as soon as I start to ask any questions, reasonable questions, then people are texting me, calling me an anti-Semite and yelling at me. And so he talked about this in August. And this interview was like a day or two after this influencer retreat in the Hamptons, which is now part of the discussion because Bill Ackman, billionaire Jew, I don't think he's from Israel, but his wife is Israeli, from Israel. Bill Ackman apparently funded this influencer retreat in early August and invited all these people out to the Hamptons. People like, what's his name? Babylon Bee guy, Seth Dillon, I think Josh Hammer, the Xavier guy who does content for PragerU and whatever. All these influencers went to the Hamptons to apparently talk about some of these cultural and political issues. And it was all funded by Bill Ackman. This is an important part of the conversation because Candace says that this is where Charlie was really pressured to continue supporting Israel, even though he was starting to have a little change of heart. And then there are, of course, people who were saying that that was not at all the case. It was a very friendly weekend. There was nobody pressuring Charlie. This is all just Candace trying to get attention. Look, you guys know, I used to work for Candace. I know Candace. Candace is not somebody who lies about this kind of thing. Okay. She's not. I know that whatever correspondence that Candace had with Charlie, I just can tell you, I would bet my entire life on it. She would not falsify that. She and Charlie were very close friends. And I don't even think people realize how much Charlie and Candace came up together in politics. She started working with Charlie at TPUSA, I think in 2017. And it was like 2 years of her life that she really helped Charlie build up a lot of TPUSA. They traveled around the country doing all these speaking engagements. They were attacked by Antifa and leftists, like drinks thrown in their faces. That's the time period where Kanye West tweeted, "I love the way Candace Owens thinks." And then Charlie and Candace got to go meet Ye. Candace and Charlie, they're like thick as thieves. They are very, very close. So I think a lot of people who are seeing Candace's streams today, they think that Candace just pretends to be friends with Charlie. I don't think you guys understand how close they were. And if you watched watched Candace's tribute to Charlie after he was assassinated, you can really see how close they were. So this is not the kind of thing that Candace is going to lie about. So she is speaking about a lot of the pressures that Charlie was feeling. And this has caused a lot of rifts in the sort of conservative movement. But Bill Ackman is an interesting guy. Right. He's an interesting dude because his wife took a lot of money from Jeffrey Epstein. His wife is Neri Oxman. She was associated with Jeffrey Epstein because apparently like her lab received, I think, $150,000 from him. She met with him in 2015, despite being aware of his questionable background and despite being told that he had, all of the shady stuff going on with minors. She had some sort of award that he funded. So Bill Ackman, he's also apparently very close friends with Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, which is the largest asset manager in the world. And we know what BlackRock's been doing. Bill Ackman is definitely a shady dude. And he has come out to so-called clear the air of the accusations that Candace is making. And Bill Ackman came out and gave all of these details about the influencer event. He was going over the detailed schedule and the meal times and the downtime. And Candace on her show, she's like, I don't care about any of that. Why are you sharing all of this? You're not answering my questions. And it seems very much like he is evading the actual conversation of what transpired on that weekend and why and how Charlie was feeling pressured. Now, again, nobody is saying Israel did it, but all of these details they're relevant. Like what Charlie was going through in the last weeks of his life. They are definitely relevant. Just like Candace has said on her YouTube, where there's one little lie, there's going to be 20 other little lies. Like, what is the point of lying? That's her question. And I think it's something that we need to all ask too. What's the point of lying about what transpired with Charlie in the last weeks of his life? And this is also really important to remember, people like Candace, people like Tucker, people like Nick, these are all financially independent people. And I want everyone to really realize what this means. So when you have a 501c3, in many ways, you are bound to your donors because donors will threaten to pull their money, to pull their funding if you don't say the things, if you don't say certain things, or if you say the wrong things. So when you run a 501c3, there is always that looming over your head that you have to think about. Now, remember, people like Candace and Tucker and Nick, they are not financially bound to anybody. And in a way, that incredible financial independence, like somebody like Tucker has, coming from all that money, in a way, that's a good thing because he's not bound to anybody. He doesn't owe anybody anything. So he can say what's true. He can say what's real. He can say what he actually believes because no one's paying him to do it. Same thing with Candace. Nobody's paying her. She's not financially bound to anybody. Same thing with Nick too. I mean, they took everything that Nick had. They took all of his money away. So he's literally financially bound to nobody. So I think that's an important thing to remember here. So Tucker also came out and said, yes, Charlie said that he was really almost fearing for his life. There was a lot of pressure at the end of his life. These are important things. So it is a very important question. Why are people trying to say that's not true? Why are they trying to lie about that? What is the point of the lie? And then Candace talked about how Charlie was actually having a sort of spiritual transformation at the end of his life, which again, you can see in his content. Do you guys remember? I don't have it pulled up, but do you remember when Charlie talked about Mother Mary and he was talking about how important it is to revere Mother Mary? That is a really big change of heart for a Protestant. Okay, I was raised Protestant. I'm now an Orthodox Christian. And one of the big theological differences is Mariology, how we approach Mother Mary. And Protestants theologically are not taught that Mother Mary is holy. There is a complete lack of reverence for Mother Mary in Protestant denominations. And in many cases, they actually sneer at her and say totally blasphemous things about her. Not all Protestants, but many denominations do. Charlie made it a point at one point, this is probably a few months ago, where he was talking about how important it is to revere Mother Mary. When he said that, I was thinking to myself, I was like, he is about to convert. He's about to convert. And I've seen him do content with somebody like Father Josiah Trenum, an Orthodox priest in California, who is one of the biggest social media priests these days. I mean, I don't mean to say that in a derogatory way. He's just one of the priests who who's doing a lot of videos on orthodoxy these days. And so Father Josiah, in an interview with Tucker, said that Charlie was really interested in orthodoxy. And we also know that Charlie, there was photos of him attending mass. Candace says that he was praying the rosary at the end. I believe all that because Charlie wouldn't have been talking about things like the holiness of Mother Mary if he weren't at least inquiring about Roman Catholicism or Orthodoxy. He was interested in this. And Candace talks about how he was like almost there, and she joked with him about how he should just take the last step and convert. And now people are mad about this. And some Protestant pastor posts a totally passive aggressive message towards Candace, which when I saw it, I was like, what is this? So this is Rob McCoy. Rob McCoy claims that he was Charlie Kirk's pastor. This is his statement. Charlie Kirk was my friend and I was his pastor. I want to simply say this regarding Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk was a friend to Candace and never publicly spoke poorly of her, though he disagreed with her. He never operated nor entertained gossip or innuendo concerning Candace. My only comment I offer regarding Candace is this. I only wish at this tragic time of mourning, she would be the friend to Charlie that he was to her. He would never have treated Candace or her family in such a way had, God forbid, this tragedy been hers. A friend loves at all times. Proverbs 17:17. What are you talking about, Rob McCoy? When I read this, I was like, is this guy okay? Like, has he been listening to anything that Candace has said? What has she said that is gossip or innuendo? What has she said that is remotely inappropriate about Charlie? Was it because she talked about his interest in Catholicism? Is that what you think is gossip? Is that what you think is a poor way to treat your friend? Is it because she's trying to investigate the death of Charlie? But when I read this, I was like, this has absolutely nothing to do with what Candace is talking about, and it disproves nothing that she's saying. And the weird thing too is that this was a totally coordinated release. Like, he sent this message to multiple people and asked them to post it on social media. There was like multiple accounts, some large accounts, some smaller accounts. They were posting this and they were like, this is a message to Candace. About what? It doesn't even refer to anything that Candace is saying. So are people mad that Charlie was inquiring into Catholicism towards the end? Are people mad that Candace is trying to investigate his death? I mean, I think so many of us have said this online. If we were assassinated, we would hope our friends would investigate our death the way that Candace is. I would hope so. We need to press the federal government to release all the information they have. This is an incredibly important political assassination. Definitely the most important political assassination of our lifetime. And the FBI is not releasing all the information. This PR hit that was given to all these influencers by this pastor to release. It's just, what is this? I don't get it. Does this all relate to Tyler Robinson? No, not necessarily, but there's just so much happening right now talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination and who else could have been behind it, the little lies that are being told. And I think we just need to watch and see what's happening. But I would encourage you guys to go listen to all of these streams because they get into this in way more detail. I don't know, we can go on forever. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. What do you think? Do you think that Charlie's murder is involving more people? What do you think about the last weeks of Charlie's life? And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And we'll see you guys in the next one.